Welcome back, Cowboys Nation. Today, we've got a jam-packed video with some sizzling hot rumors that are shaking up the offseason. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you know this is one of the most exciting times of the year, filled with speculation, trade buzz, and free agency madness. There's been a lot of buzz lately about whether the Cowboys should sign a big-time defensive player like Von Miller, or perhaps bolster their receiving core by adding Tyler Lockett, or even a familiar face in Michael Gallup. But that's not all. We've also got a head-to-head showdown that's been brewing for quite some time, Micah Parsons versus Tank Lawrence. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into these rumors and breaking them down to see what's really going on. Let's start with the first big rumor: Von Miller to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this one is a bit of a surprise to some, but for others, it's a move that makes perfect sense. Von Miller, a two-time Super Bowl champion, and one of the most dominant edge rushers of the past decade, has become a free agent after his stint with the Buffalo Bills. At 34, he's not getting any younger, but don't let that fool you. Miller is still a force to be reckoned with. When you think of a pass rusher who can create havoc, disrupt quarterbacks, and put pressure on offenses, Von Miller's name immediately comes to mind. He's been a game-changer throughout his career, and even though he's had some injury setbacks in recent years, he remains one of the most respected and feared players in the league. Now, let's think about this from the Cowboys' perspective. The Cowboys are known for having one of the best pass rushes in the NFL, thanks to guys like Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and even younger players who have flash potential. But let's be real here, adding a guy like Von Miller could take this defense to another level. Imagine Von Miller lining up opposite Micah Parsons, or even playing on the same side as Tank Lawrence. That's an absolutely terrifying prospect for any quarterback. The Cowboys' defense would have one of the most dynamic and frightening pass rushes in the league, with two elite edge rushers on the field at all times, constantly pressuring opposing quarterbacks. This would make life incredibly difficult for offenses trying to move the ball, and the Cowboys' defense would likely be one of the most disruptive in the league. But let's also dig into some of the concerns. The biggest issue here is cap space. While the Cowboys do have some financial flexibility, adding another massive contract like Von Miller's could limit their ability to address other needs, particularly on offense or in the secondary. Miller is likely going to command a hefty price, and while he's still effective, his age is a factor. At 34, he's not the same player he once was. Can the Cowboys afford to pay top-tier money for a player who might only have a couple more prime years left? It's certainly a gamble, but it's a gamble that could pay off big if Miller can stay healthy and continue to produce at a high level. After all, he's proven time and time again that when the lights are the brightest, he shows up. Just look at his Super Bowl performances. Another concern with Miller is his injury history. Yes, he's had some unfortunate injuries in the past, including a torn ACL and some other minor setbacks. While he was able to bounce back from these injuries and continue to perform at a high level, the reality is that older players tend to get injured more often. If Miller misses significant time or struggles to stay on the field, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow, especially if the Cowboys are committing a large portion of their cap space to him. So, while the idea of adding Von Miller to an already stacked defense sounds enticing, the Cowboys have to carefully evaluate the financial and health risks before pulling the trigger on this one. Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another rumor that's been floating around lately: the possibility of the Cowboys signing wide receiver Tyler Lockett. This one definitely has people talking. Lockett, who has been a star for the Seattle Seahawks for years, is known for his exceptional route running, ability to stretch the field, and his consistent hands. He's been one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL for a long time, and with the Seahawks undergoing a bit of a rebuild, it wouldn't be surprising if Lockett was looking for a new home. He's 31 years old, but still incredibly effective. Lockett has been a top-tier receiver for the Seahawks, consistently putting up over 1,000 yards per season, and has had his fair share of highlight reel catches. For the Cowboys, adding Lockett to their receiving core could be a game changer. We all know that CeeDee Lamb is the clear number one target in Dallas, but the Cowboys could use another weapon on the outside. Lockett would be a perfect fit in the Cowboys' offense, providing Dak Prescott with a reliable deep threat who can stretch the field and create mismatches. Lockett is also a fantastic route runner, which would pair nicely with Lamb's ability to create separation at all levels of the field. The Cowboys' offense has been potent in recent years, but adding Lockett could give Dak Prescott another reliable target to work with. He would provide that extra spark and dynamic playmaking ability that could elevate the offense even further. However, there are a few concerns here. For one, Lockett is 31 years old, and while he's still playing at a high level, how much longer can he maintain that elite status? Wide receivers tend to have shorter careers than some other positions, and once a receiver hits the 30-year mark, there's always the question of how long they'll be able to play at an elite level. Additionally, the Cowboys already have a solid group of receivers, with players like Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, and Lamb. Is it really worth bringing in another veteran receiver when they've already got a solid group? The Cowboys might be better off focusing on strengthening other areas of the team, like the defense or the offensive line. Another factor to consider is the cap space. The Cowboys have limited cap room, and Lockett might be looking for a contract that could push them even further into the red. Do the Cowboys really need to spend big money on a wide receiver when they've got other priorities? Speaking of which, that brings us to another possible move that's been generating some chatter, bringing back Michael Gallup. Gallup, who has struggled with injuries the past few seasons, could be in line for a bounce-back year. If the Cowboys believe in Gallup's potential to return to form, he could be a more cost-effective option than Lockett. Gallup has shown flashes of brilliance in the past, especially as a downfield threat, and pairing him with Lamb and Cooks could give the Cowboys a very dangerous receiving trio. Gallup has the potential to be a number 2 receiver in a high-powered offense, and if he's able to stay healthy, he could be the missing piece that this offense needs. However, Gallup's injury history is a major concern. He's shown that he can be productive when healthy, but will he be able to stay on the field for a full season? That's something the Cowboys have to consider, especially when you look at the other injury-prone players they've had on the roster in recent years. Gallup's potential is undeniable, but will the Cowboys be able to rely on him to be the consistent contributor they need, or will injuries continue to hold him back? The Cowboys medical staff will have to make a key evaluation on Gallup's future in Dallas. Let's talk about the dynamics between Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence for a moment, because there's some real competition brewing between these two elite pass rushers. Micah Parsons is undoubtedly one of the best defensive players in the NFL today. He's a physical specimen with a combination of speed, strength, and athleticism that makes him nearly impossible to block. He's already a 2-time Pro Bowler, and it feels like he's just scratching the surface of what he can accomplish in his career. Parsons is a generational talent, and his ability to change the course of a game with a single play has made him the centerpiece of the Cowboys' defense. But Tank Lawrence, while often overlooked by casual fans, has been the steady force for the Cowboys on the defensive line for years. He's been a consistent performer, both as a pass rusher and against the run, and he has been a leader on the Cowboys' defense. Lawrence is not as flashy as Parsons, but he's been an anchor for the Cowboys' defense for a long time. His ability to disrupt the quarterback, set the edge, and play tough in the trenches has allowed Parsons to shine even brighter. Tank Lawrence is also one of the highest-paid players on the team, which adds an extra layer of scrutiny when it comes to evaluating his future in Dallas. The interesting thing is how the Cowboys view both of these players moving forward. Parsons is entering his prime and is only going to get better, but Tank Lawrence is no slouch. He's the veteran leader in that defensive front, and while Parsons might be the more explosive player, Lawrence still provides a steady presence and knows how to get to the quarterback. In many ways, they complement each other. Parsons can do the flashy work and make the highlight reel plays, while Tank Lawrence can be counted on to play the more technical, fundamental role. Together, they make one of the most feared defensive duos in the league. The battle between these two players isn't necessarily one of rivalry, it's more about how the Cowboys can maximize their potential. Parsons is a game-changing player, and there's no question he'll be the focal point of the defense moving forward. But Lawrence's leadership and experience cannot be overlooked. It's this blend of youth and experience that makes the Cowboys' defensive line one of the best in the league. But here's the question: will the Cowboys stick with this tandem long-term? Could they look to move on from Lawrence in the near future to free up cap space, or is it more likely that they'll keep this duo intact for the foreseeable future? As you can see, there are a lot of moving pieces when it comes to these rumors, and the Cowboys have some major decisions to make. The potential signings of Von Miller, Tyler Lockett, or even re-signing Michael Gallup would all have significant impacts on the team's future. Add in the dynamic of Parsons and Tank Lawrence, and the Cowboys could be shaping up for an interesting offseason. There's no doubt that the front office will have to carefully navigate these decisions to ensure the long-term success of the franchise. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys need to focus on what makes the most sense for the long-term health of the team. They can't afford to make rash decisions or throw money at players who might not fit into their future plans. The key will be finding the right balance between adding talent and maintaining financial flexibility for future seasons. If they can do that, the Cowboys could very well be a force to be reckoned with in 2025 and beyond. So, Cowboys Nation, what do you think? Should the Cowboys go all in on signing Von Miller and bringing in Tyler Lockett, or should they stick with what they've got and focus on keeping their core group intact? And what about Micah Parsons versus Tank Lawrence? How do you see that dynamic playing out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth Cowboys analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.